Welcome to Chowder Grits, the podcast for Virginia Tech and ACC sports. I'm Justin Cochiola alongside Tim Hirth. It is Thursday, September 29th. We're recapping the West Virginia Tech matchup. Fortunately, a loss for the Hokies, 33-10 defeat in Blacksburg Thursday night. We're also going to preview the upcoming game against North Carolina. If you remember back in 2016, I believe it was Hurricane Matthew. Rained a rainstorm of storms down on Chapel Hill, and Virginia Tech left victorious 35-3. Will that happen again? I don't know. We'll see. We're going to talk about it. But before all that, Tim, what's going on?
Just waiting for Aaron Judge to hit that historic home run so we can stop having him cut in on college football games. So anytime, Aaron, that you're ready, feel free to knock one out.
Yeah, no, I am. I've been watching way too many Yankees games, waiting for it because I want to see it with my eyes. I was lucky enough to flip on Apple TV, catch Pujols' 700 the other night, which I do love me some Albert Pujols, so I was happy to see that. Was able to catch that, so it's not like Aaron's having bad at bats. Like, he got walked 4 times last night. He had plenty of opportunity. He just had good at bats, good solid at bats, and got on base. So. Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen, Tim, is, of course, it's just going to be another, monumental occasion that the Yankees have against the Orioles this weekend, to where Aaron Judge gets 61 and 62 and sets the AL record for home runs in a single season. So, I mean,
Right.
We knew it was going to happen. I don't even know why we bothered. Why am I even watching right now? It doesn't matter. He's going to do it against the Orioles.
Yep. No, it's written in the stars for sure. 110%.
It is. Derek Jeter's last game, walk-off hit against the Orioles. I mean, last home game, that is. It's just, it's just what you expect as an Orioles fan. But what can you do?
Nothing. Just kind of get ready for the youth movement and, be thankful that this year wasn't all that bad. You guys have been in it until the very end. So,
yeah,
for the Orioles, that's a hell of a lot of progress.
Until they tell us we're not. So,
true.
Yeah, so let's jump into it, Tim. Let's talk West Virginia. Instant reaction now that it's been a few days. I mean, I ask you that because I've seen a lot of I don't know, like animosity and like film analysis from people that probably shouldn't be giving film analysis.
Yeah.
A lot of Tyler Bowen takes, and I mean, personally for me, I was upset as the game was unfolding, as any Hokies fan would be. The next day, I barely thought about it. And I had a 7-hour drive home. And I think the reason is it's like, this is not going to be a fun season as far as like winning football games. It was not a team that was supposed to go in and dominate this game. It's not a team that's supposed to have a great season. Anybody who had expectations of Virginia Tech under a new coaching staff with limited talent offensively, a new offensive system, only 4 returning starters from last year, a new quarterback from a MAC school or whatever Marshall's in now, Conference USA, or what are they, Sun Belt? I don't know.
Yeah, Sun Belt.
It's about kind of as you would have suspected they drew it up. Now, were there things that you can be frustrated about? Yeah. Am I going to lose sleep over anything with this Virginia Tech football team? I just can't. Because this is a rebuild, in case you forgot. And it's going to take time. Tyler Bowen is 32 years old. This is his first year as like the guy calling plays. I mean, Brent Pry doesn't even let Chris Marv near the playbook. And he's maybe a year older. Yeah. Brent Pry's calling the defense. And we're seeing like what's happening on the defensive side of the ball, although there's a lot more talent returning there. But offensively, it's just a bunch of raw experience from a player standpoint, rawness from a coaching staff standpoint, and it's going to take time.
Right.
It's going to take time. The team has to play better. The team has to figure out how to score points if they're going to have any chance of winning any other game on their schedule. But I moved on pretty quickly from this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of the same way. I think a lot of it psychologically for me going into the season was I was going to have fun regardless of the results this year because Brent Pry was, setting a new tone, building a new culture. And I knew that was going to come with a lot of growing pains. that game was tough to sit through, obviously. I mean, we were seated next to West Virginia fans, and it certainly wasn't a pleasant result. But at the end of the day, I can only be so upset given all the circumstances that surround the program. I know our offensive line coach is elite, yet our offensive line is playing right now 63rd out of 65 teams, Power 5 teams. So that's bottom of the barrel. I think that's a statement to, we got new schemes, we've got some talent deficits. We knew that coming in just based off the way Fuente recruited. We've got a new head coach who's learning on the job, as any new head coach would. We've got a new offensive coordinator learning on the job quite clearly. I think I've been most disappointed with Bowen more than anybody else on that team or anyone else associated with that program. But even I can't be too upset at Bowen on, Grant Wells missed some throws. There were some poor play calls, specifically in short yardage situations again. We've beaten that drum to death. But at some point, you got to take this year for what it is and find some way to enjoy it. And obviously, no one's going to enjoy a loss like this, but you got to flush it and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is it's easy to sit back and say, play call here, play call there, miss throw down the field. Like I watched some of Wells' throws down the field. I mean, yeah, he missed a couple, but he also couldn't step up in the pocket. He had somebody about to, absolutely annihilate him. Yeah. I think he got called on there was a personal foul roughing the passer on one of the penalties. Like if you can't step up into the pocket and make a throw, it's going to be really hard to throw the ball downfield. And I think with the lack of offensive line, I don't know if I'll say progress or not that we've seen this year, it's hard to call an offense consistently, especially when you can't run the football.
Yeah, well, especially the kind of offense that they clearly want to run.
Exactly.
They want to push the line of scrimmage in short yardage situations. They want to get the 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 with the back. But we're kind of hamstrung here, not only in the running game. Clearly, we want to be a balanced team, but we want to be a hard-nosed team that gets those short yardages in the run game. But like you said, in the pass game, that's gonna be extremely detrimental, obviously. So it's hard for me to cast aspersions on Bowen. Have I had instances of frustration with play calling? 100% yes. But we also don't know how much of his play calling is being dictated by the skills and the talent on the offensive side of the football. We don't know.
Well, I mean, like you said, he looked at the offensive line. It's one of the worst units in the country.
Right.
From a rushing perspective, they're only averaging 1.5 yards before contact this season. That's 100th best in the nation.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Last year, they averaged 2.8 yards per contact, which was 4th best in the country. And then on top of it, after contact, the running backs are only averaging 2.3 yards per carry, which is 122nd in the country. Yeah. So not only is the offensive line not getting any kind of push whatsoever, able to open up any lanes from a rushing perspective, the running backs also aren't doing much with the football when they do get past that line of scrimmage.
Right.
And, I think if you look at like Keyshawn King, the guy's got 29 carries this year. He's had 10 in the last 3 games, one of which he didn't play in. And I mean, he had 6 carries for 4 yards against West Virginia. Against Boston College, he had 4 carries for 64 yards, and one of them was a 65-yard touchdown. So he's literally got 9 carries for what did I just 3 yards?
Yeah.
And then 1 65-yard touchdown run in the last 3 games combined, taking out the Old Dominion game. And he's your team's leading rusher right now. Yeah. Jalen Holston leads the team in rushing. He's got 45 carries. He's only averaging 3.2 yards per carry. Like he gets it, he goes down. The reason he's in the game is for pass blocking. He's like an additional offensive lineman, and that's why he's playing so much, because he essentially has to. Right. And that's just where this offense is right now. It's easy to sit back and look at Grant Wells and say, like, man, this kid's playing like shit, because it does look that way. Mm-hmm. But when you have a team that can't run the football, when you have an offensive line that's getting no push, it's been suspect in passing situations. You occasionally, whether or not that's a clear throw or, he's got some kind of clean pocket or whatever it is, he's literally got to hit that play because there are no other opportunities coming up. And then if you just look at the offense as a whole, they can't run the football at all. So what does that mean? There's going to be less guys in the box and more guys in the secondary. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing against Virginia Tech. They're daring them to throw the football, and they can't. They can't do it. They cannot do anything, literally nothing right now on offense. And I mean, the best throw we had of the night was down the field, 28-yard touchdown pass to Caleb Smith in the corner of the end zone. It was a great catch. It was a great throw. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, there was a deep ball earlier in that drive that he missed to Dwayne Lofton. He was under attack. And then there was another play earlier in the game, or maybe it was after that play, down to Christian Moss, and that's the play where he tried to step up into the pocket and couldn't, got hit, got a roughing the passer penalty, and they moved 15 yards up the field. But it's hard to get this offense in a rhythm when nothing is going right for it. Right. And you're as good as your last play. You're as good as you are as a unit. And there's only two guys that return from a starting standpoint on that offensive line. And I guess you could look at it and say, like, Silas Zanzi and Johnny Jordan have regressed. But if the guy next to you is playing really poorly, that's going to affect your play. Yeah. You're going to have to start doing more. You're going to start missing blocks. You're going to start having to overcorrect or whatever it is. They're just not playing well together right now. Sure. And until that happens, until they can finally start to put something together, it's just going to be more of the same offensively.
Agreed. I mean, we saw multiple times where West Virginia was rushing 3 and dropping 8. We saw that on multiple occasions, and they are literally daring Virginia Tech to run, and we can't do it right now. We absolutely cannot run, whether it be scheme related, talent related, whether that be in the running back group, the offensive line group. I honestly, Justin, I think it's a perfect storm of a little bit of everything right now. When it comes to what is wrong with Virginia Tech's run game and what's wrong with Virginia Tech's offense. I think it's all the above. And that's why I kind of get frustrated with Twitter after football games, because it seems like everybody wants to pin the successes or failures on the shoulders of one thing. Nuance goes completely out of the window, and that's been one of my frustrations with social media for a long time. In this case, you need to look at it with some nuance, because I think there are multiple variables here at play, which are leading to what we're seeing as one of the worst running attacks in Virginia Tech football history.
Backed up by really poor offensive line play.
Yeah, so absolutely.
If that offensive line starts to play better, what happens? I mean, maybe it's a personnel situation. We haven't seen Malachi Thomas this year. Maybe he comes in and adds a spark, but who knows? If the offensive line can't block, it doesn't matter who you have back there. It's just not gonna go.
And I think what's telling too, I love that stat about depth of first contact that you mentioned. That is a tailor-made, because people say it's hard sometimes to look at the metrics of offensive linemen. You just got to watch the tape. Well, no, that one's pretty good. That basically tells you what kind of push you're getting as an offensive line. And right now, your eye tells you you're not getting any, and the stats back that up.
Defensively, I thought it was a step back for the Hokies. I mean, I'm not surprised it was their worst defensive performance of the year, considering this was by far the best offense they had faced. Yep. And, I mean, honestly, I thought they played pretty well for most of the game. Yeah. Now, I mean, if you look at it, going into the fourth quarter, the score was 16-10. I thought the drive, before halftime was a little just – I'm not sure what that was, but that just kind of came out of nowhere from a defense that had played pretty well in that first half. Right. West Virginia just kind of drove up the field and took the lead, went up 16-10 on them. But after that, I mean, what killed them in the fourth quarter was, one, the offense couldn't get off the field, or couldn't stay on the field, I should say. Virginia Tech's defense was on the field for almost 40 minutes. There's 60 minutes in a football game. Okay? I think West Virginia ran 76 plays. I think Virginia Tech's offense ran 51. Like, that's just not going to get it done.
No.
Okay, so your defense got tired. Your defense made 15 penalties, or the team had 15 penalties. I don't think they were all defensively, but the majority were. And at that point in the fourth quarter, those penalties just kept extending drive after drive after drive, and West Virginia finally started to score points. And then you add an interception return for a touchdown, score ends 33-10, game's over. So without the penalties, could Virginia Tech have won? No, I think they were going to lose the game anyway. I mean, they can't score.
I can answer that question. Yes, absolutely. We would have still lost.
Yeah, I mean, they just cannot score points.
No, we can't. And until we figure out how to do that, we are not going to win many games. I think going into the season, in my 6-6 prediction, I assumed that we would have a below average to average offense. And we have one of the worst offenses in school history, all things considered. And if I was looking at this offense, you're lucky to be a 3-win team come the end of the season. You just are. Now, good news, a lot of this youth, right? They improve on a week-to-week basis. The young coaches will continue to improve, and maybe there's some semblance of a pulse by the end of the season, but it won't be overnight. And when you talk about the defense, I can't take anything away from this game for the defense because they were on the field the entire game. We don't have the depth on defense to be able to play a game like that and not break down at the end, which is what you saw. For 3 quarters, that defense did damn good, better than anybody to this point in the season against West Virginia. But that fourth quarter, you could see it. They had nothing left. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you can't run, that's going to happen.
Right. This team is going to have to go like Beamer ball era on steroids in order to win a game. And that means like punt return for a touchdown, defensive touchdown. I mean, under 10 points allowed. It's just not realistic. And I mean, the ACC, you know, is crappy of a football conference that it is. And it's especially the Coastal Division. It is a bunch of doo-doo. I mean, it really is.
It's
the
bad.
Coastal this year is bad. I mean, Pitt is far and away the best team in the Coastal.
Yes.
And you look at it and you're like, well, they should be able to win these games, and they should on paper. But Virginia Tech hasn't scored more than 27 points this year. And that 27 came against Boston College, who has the worst offensive line in the Power 5.
Yeah.
Probably behind Virginia and then Virginia Tech. It's just
bad.
A conference full of great offensive line play.
Bad times over here.
And, you know, it's just not it's not something to be positive about. Now, lucky for the Hokies, you know, they're going into North Carolina, who has one of the worst defenses in the country, probably in the Power 5. I can't imagine there's a worse. I don't know that for a fact, but their defense is absolutely atrocious. But what I would say about the Hokies going into this is, you know, you're heading into October. Everyone just needs to chill out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Like, take a step back and realize what this season is. Okay. Realize what next season is going to be. If you think this season is bad, just wait till next season.
Correct.
Because you've got a bunch of upperclassmen and seniors playing on that defense. They're gone. You know, your best player offensively, Caleb Smith, he's gone. You're going to have an entirely new look offensive line, again, which may or may not be a bad thing, but the guys behind them, they're not even allowing them to play this year. So I'm going to trend towards the bad direction. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough couple of years.
Yes.
So take every game for what it is. Stop freaking out. Stop trying to blame the offensive coordinator or this or that or, you know, this player or that player. Like, do you really want Jason Brown to play right now?
He's everything.
A guy who is a few games away from never playing college football again. What is that going to get Virginia Tech? Nothing.
Now, if you want to talk about Farrell, I'll listen to that all day.
Yeah, sure. You know, plop Devin Farrell in there, but we're not going to see him this year. Not until, you know, there's his red shirt's not on the line, if we're being honest. So they're not going to burn his red shirt right now. There's no reason.
No. Before we move on into next week's game, I just want to say we should probably shout out Will Ross. Kicker is
a stud.
doing kicker things. And for a guy that didn't play football, pretty damn impressive what I've seen from him. So I just wanted to shout him out.
I would just let him kick from 65 at this point. Like, why not?
We got no reason not to.
I think the majority of his field goals have been over 40 yards, which in college is impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 100%. He hasn't missed a field goal all year from any distance. So,
sure.
He's playing well. But we'll see. We need some other guys to start playing well. And I think, as you look at UNC, the preview this week, you look at it from a personnel standpoint. Dorian Strong hurt his hand in the game.
Yep.
Your secondary is not who you want out in this game.
No.
Okay, that's what North Carolina does right now is they throw the football, and they throw it well. Sounds like Dorian's going to be a game-time decision. Jalen Stroman got ejected for targeting late in the second half against West Virginia, so he's out for the first half. So we'll probably see a couple of guys back there filling in on that, specifically the nickel defensive play sets. Malachi Thomas, he's practicing individual drills. Be nice to see him on the field. Don't know if it's going to happen, especially with the weather that's being called for. And then, again, just more personnel, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. Keely Lawson, he's going to be starting at will. It sounds like coaches really like how he's playing. Jaden Keller, I think the way Brent Bry put it was he's feast or famine. He'll do some really nice things. And then at other times he looks lost and just the lack of focus or understanding of what he's supposed to be doing at the time. So
that sounds like a young guy.
Yeah. I mean, and both of them are true or redshirt freshmen. So
yeah, no, they're look, we're going to run into a lot of that all over the field. But hearing a guy like if Brent Pry is saying that, it's clear to me that he's quite a difference maker when he's locked in.
So as far as the mistakes go, I think Virginia Tech, they've been penalized 40 times this season. If you're wondering if that's a lot or not, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's actually 129th in the country a lot. So worst. So the Hokies, they decided to institute a penalty for guys to where they have to sprint, do a 40-yard sprint for every yard that they give up penalty-wise. So probably going to be a lot of vomiting going on in practice on Sunday. If that continues. I think if you look at the West Virginia game, they gave up 218 yards on the ground. A lot of that was just poor tackling, poor technique. So Brent Price sounded frustrated with that. So I'd imagine, we should expect the Hokies to be better in those two areas. I think, if you look at the Old Dominion loss, which again, like I told you last week, let's try and forget that as quickly as we can. But it seemed like the team forgot it and moved on. Took care of business the next week. So that's what you're looking for in this team. Resiliency, because they're going to need it. It's going to be a rough season. They seem like a tough team. They don't quit. They play aggressive, and I think that's why we're seeing penalties kind of pile up here a little bit. But they got to reel that in. I talked about fourth quarter miscues against West Virginia, or that West Virginia had coming into this game, specifically against Pitt and Kansas. But in Tech's 2 losses, it's been no different. I mean, they blew the game against Old Dominion in the fourth quarter on the last drive, the only offensive scoring drive that Old Dominion had all season, or the entire game. And then West Virginia, I think, they put up the majority of their points in that fourth quarter. So they're going to have to figure it out. But the term of the season has been like correctable mistakes, which, I don't really want to hear. But
no, I'm done with that.
You just gotta play better. And forecast wise, it's going to be tough. But lucky for them, it's going to be tough for both teams. It's going to be wet. It's the Hurricane Ian will be a tropical depression by then. It sounds like they're expecting a half inch of rain during the game right now, 91% chance of rain. But honestly, that's probably great news for Virginia Tech. I mean, I think bad weather tends to favor the defense. Anything to slow that offense down. I do think they'll be able to slow, I want to call him Luke May, Drake May down a little bit. But Yeah. Any comments, Tim, before we jump into some of the keys to the game here for North Carolina?
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The tackling was terrible. It's great that we're doing sprints for penalties, no matter how middle schoolish that feels to me. Um, and you're right about guys trying to do too
Feels
much.
very Remember the Titans-ish.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, how big was that playbook? Was it three plays or something?
Hey,
Who do you think? Who do you think has a bigger playbook, the Titans or the Hokies?
The Titans?
Yeah,
Oh.
those Titans.
Those Titans. Yeah, I was like, whoa, shots fired.
Because it seems like our short yardage playbook is.
I would say the
plays.
Hokies, and maybe that's the problem.
It hasn't been pretty, but the other takes, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Brent Pry said he felt like part of the reason the penalties were being committed was because he felt like the players were pressing, people trying to feel like they had to win the game single-handedly to make up for some of the struggles, and I could see that. But the good news is they're correctable mistakes.
Yes, they are. So UNC, what to know? This might be my favorite stat. I mean, who does?
That's a good point.
I guess we'll find out if the SEC or the Big Ten likes them at some point. But
womp womp.
They've got 33 4 and 5 stars on their roster from the last 3 recruiting cycles. And that has literally landed them one of the worst defenses in the country, which is wild. Gene Chizik, the new defensive coordinator. Remember, they fired Jay Bateman last year.
Yeah.
He hasn't been a coach in college football since 2016. And it looks like it because his defense is one of the worst units in the country. Obviously, offensively, it's been a different story, and that's why they've won games. Drake May, freshman, brother of Luke, for you Tar Heel basketball fans. Hope there's none of you out there. Seems like he's pretty solid at the quarterback position. He's thrown for over 1,200 yards this year, 16 tuds, and 1 pick. Tar Heels are 11th in points per game, averaging 46.5. Hokies are only averaging 20. The Tar Heels, they give up 39.5 points per game.
Yikes.
And the Hokies are only allowing 17.5. So that's a positive.
Yes.
Yards per game wise, UNC is averaging 512, 307 through the air. They also give up over 500 yards per game, 278 through the air and 216 on the ground. Offensively, they rank 6th in passing efficiency, 8th in scoring offense, 8th in completion percentage, 9th in third down conversion percentage at 52.8%, and 16th in total offense. So they're 3-1. Their wins are over Florida A&M, App State, which was a 63-61 win, a game in which they gave up 40 points in the fourth quarter. And they beat Georgia State by 7, 35-28. So, App State's a solid team, but they're a flawed team.
Yeah.
They allowed them to score 40 points in 1 quarter. Their first loss of the season was last week against Notre Dame. They lost 45-32. So what happened there? They struggled to move the ball on the ground. They only had 10 carries for their lead back, Omaron Hampton. He had 28 yards. Luke May ran the ball well. His rushing numbers don't look great because there were some sacks in there. So the way quarterbacks work, you can take the rushing statistics with a grain of salt. May can run. And he had 5 touchdowns through the air and 300 yards passing. So if you look at the running back comparison between the two, Hampton leads their team in rushing. He's had a couple of big games. They don't look to have a consistent rushing attack. So I think that will allow the Hokies to kind of key in on the passing game, which unfortunately they have just a lot of playmakers.
Yeah.
We talked about Keyshawn King, who, again, he's averaging 6 yards per carry, but he's got 10 carries in the last 3 games, 9 of which went for 3 yards and 1 went for 65. So don't get like too caught up in the statistics there. He's only carried the ball 29 times this season through 4 games. Jalen Holston, again, 45 carries, leads the team in carries, but only 3.2 yards per carry. And if you look at the Tar Heels receiving core, they have 4 players who have 10 catches or more this season, 2 with 9. They spread the ball around. It seems like almost all of their guys can take the rock to the house at any moment. And one other thing for North Carolina that you should know about, the defense. Actually, I've got a lot of things you should know about them, but we're going to focus on that. The defense had a players-only meeting.
Those are always good.
And apparently, according to one of their defensive ends who spoke to the media about this, there was concerns within the team that, they're playing as individuals. They're not playing as a team. There were some attitude control issues, mood on the sideline. So something to keep an eye on. And it's kind of like what you think about with this new look college football and these NIL deals and all these blue chips who now have all this money. They're not necessarily going to these schools because they want to play for the school. They're going to the school for money because they think it's going to give them the most branding opportunities, whatever it may be. They're not going because they fit the system and fit the mold of what the coaches are looking for. Not saying that's happening here. I'm just implying it.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good overview. So we've got a situation where we have the weather coming in. The weather looks like it's going to be another hurricane game, so to speak. We've got a scenario in which we could neutralize an extremely potent passing game, depending on how much rain we see. I know this is skipping ahead a little bit here, Justin, but are you willing to take the Hokies if the hurricane ends up dumping gallons of rain on Chapel Hill?
Take them from a point spread standpoint or to win?
Money line.
No.
Okay.
I'm not.
Because I'm very tempted. Given the forecast, I actually like the Hokies.
It's probably like plus 750 payout.
Mm-hmm.
So, keys to the game, Tim. I'm nervous, and I'm not nervous because I think North Carolina can beat us. They definitely can.
Oh yeah.
I'm nervous because their defense is so freaking bad.
Yep. I know where you're going.
They're 123rd in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Hokies can't figure it out here in this game, and I understand the weather situation, so we'll wait to see what the weather does. You never know with these things. The thing could turn into the Atlantic Ocean. It could just be rain.
Look, okay? I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. Yeah, you're right. These unpredictable as can be.
But if they can't move the ball against North Carolina,
yep.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
It's just gonna leave a bad taste in your mouth for what to expect for the rest of the year. This North Carolina defense is literally, just imagine watching the Virginia Tech offense, which I'm sure you all have this year. Their defense may be worse than that.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
That's how bad it is.
Their defense needs our offense, and our offense needs this defense.
Yes. And unfortunately, listen, they haven't played a top defense yet. And I'm not saying Virginia Tech's defense is a top 10 defense.
Right.
It is technically right now the number 10 defense overall. I don't think it will be after a few more weeks. I do think it'll be solid, but I just think top 10 is a little of a early season statistical glamour stat. And partly of that is North Carolina's offense as well. They haven't played like top tier defenses yet. I still think they're going to be able to move the football. They went against a better defense last week against Notre Dame. Not as good as Virginia Tech's on paper. And they did struggle at times. They got some points later in the game, but if you look at Notre Dame's offense has been bad this
Not
year.
good.
And
Not good.
they kind of dominated that game. So
Yeah.
they put up 42 points. But as far as like first key to the game here, these are just embarrassingly like obvious. Run the ball, find the run game. If the Hokies can figure that out, I think this offense has a chance to look wildly different. Do I think it'll look great? No. But do I think it'll look better? Yes. They've had zero success out of the home run on the ground this year, and they need to give the ball to King more.
Right.
You know, I don't care how bad it is. 6 carries is not enough. 18 carries overall for your team when the score was 16-10 going into the fourth quarter. That's not going to get it done. Like that's just you're not even giving yourself a chance here. Okay, so you have to try and run the ball. And I want you to take as many shots downfield as humanly possible. I would rather this offense just go out swinging. I'd rather see Grant Wells throw 5 to 6 picks a game, just chucking the ball downfield, trying to make a play. Because literally, that is what he does best. That's what he did best at Marshall. He's got a big arm. He can get the ball downfield. And I don't care if his completion percentage is 35%. It's better than what we're watching right now. Take a few shots. We need to see more shots down the field. Figure out how to get it done. Figure out how to work it into the offense. Mix in the run where possible. Hopefully you can establish that and just have it be better. I'm not even saying it's got to be dominant. Just have it be better and then try and throw that ball downfield. And I know, again, we're talking about this tropical depression situation. So the weather is to be determined, and the weather's obviously going to affect it. And if the weather's just a complete disaster, then you're definitely going to have to run the ball.
Right.
So my next key, Tim, is slow down May. I mean, again, very, very obvious. But the 12th man in this game is the weather. The defense has to figure out how to keep UNC to under 30 points for any chance to win. I mean, Virginia Tech averages 20 points a game.
Even hearing 30 points is like, yeah, fat chance. That's as sad as it gets. But, I mean, you're right. It sounds obvious.
They held West Virginia to under 30 points.
True.
I mean, the interception return for a touchdown put them over 30.
I would not have expected, going into that for us to keep them that low because West Virginia's offense is great. But, yeah, you're right. You got to slow down Drake May. The weather's going to help a lot. The way you do that, you got to get pressure home. He gets rid of the ball fairly quickly, so it's going to be stressing on the defensive line. Obviously, we're going to be down Stroman, I think, is it a half that we're missing for? Is he out there? A half.
The half. First half.
So, yeah, easy to say. Obviously.
And Stroman's a dude.
You take away.
I really like how Stroman's been playing.
Stroman is a dude.
He's been balling out. So it's a big loss not to have him for that first half.
Agreed, especially on a team that runs a quasi-air raid system out in Chapel Hill.
Then my third key to the game, Tim, and again, very elementary with my keys to the game here, but it's score more than one touchdown.
Jesus. Oh, boy.
In order to win, you got to score more points than the other team. So the Hokies haven't been doing that this year, or they haven't been doing a good job of it at least. And we've highlighted how bad this defense is they're going up against. We know weather's going to play a factor. We're not sure how wet it's going to be or what's going to really happen. But if the Hokies just continue to stall offensively, I just hope they're close enough to where they can at least kick as many field goals as possible with Will Ross. But they've got to put some points on the board. And I
Agreed.
mean, it just doesn't matter how it happens. I don't care if it's a punt return for a touchdown, a block field goal. I don't care if a fan runs onto the field and steals the ball and they somehow count it as a touchdown. I don't care if Grant Wells, throws it straight into the North Carolina defender's hands. It bounces off the ref's face, and then Caleb Smith plucks it out of the air and runs it in for 95 yards. I will take whatever touchdown we can get right now. and I would take it to the bank.
Yeah.
But they got to get in the end zone.
They do. Frequently.
So prediction, Tim. I want to hear it. What's your prediction for the game?
So I thought going in the weather was going to change my mind here, and I think it will. We are going to need a tropical depression level rain event here for me to feel comfortable picking the Hokies. That does seem like the most likely scenario to me based on forecasts I'm seeing. If that's true, I like the Hokies 24-28.
So just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Tropical depression. This offense. How many of those are defensive touchdowns?
2.
Oh, man, I cannot believe you're picking Virginia Tech after picking West Virginia last week.
Let's go. Hey, I got it right, though, didn't I?
I'm trying to look up the weather situation right here. So Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
And look, this could be like a wish pick here because I just want to see it happen so bad that I'm trying to talk myself into it logically. But I know our record when it comes to hurricane games and UNC, and I know how bad the last one hurt and how frustrated they got after. And the social media after the game is going to be so good if this happens again that I am almost trying to will it to be so.
Listen, I mean, Virginia Tech's got their number, and they've had it since they've joined the ACC. Here's the forecast. Again, First day of October, which I love. First off, October, favorite month of the year.
Oh, my God, yes.
Every woman in my house, and there's 3 of them, is born in the month of October. Actually, I have a 2-year-old's birthday party on Saturday, Tim. There's going to be 41 people at my house. Luckily, it's before kickoff.
Perfect.
The forecast is saying a little rain from tropical rainstorm Ian. Watch for flooding. That seems more than a little.
What? I mean,
maximum wind gust 28 miles per hour. Rain probability 89%. Rain amount half an inch. 97% cloud cover.
We're going to get half an inch of rain, but we're going to need to look out for flooding.
Half an inch of rain, but a little rain is what it says from tropical rainstorm Ian.
Okay.
And it looks like it's going to continue into the night. Sure. So it's going to continue into the night. So the kickoff's at 3:30, and they're calling for an additional 0.2 of an inch. What I'm concerned about here is Virginia Tech scores no points because Will Ross kicking conditions aren't going to be primed and ready to go. If I'm really telling you my biggest concern, that's what it is. But like I alluded to earlier, my one ray of hope for the Hokies here is Notre Dame isn't an offensive stalwart and came into this game and just lit up North Carolina. Okay, put up 42 on them. You know, the quarterback had like 289 for 3 scores. Schedule-wise, UNC hasn't played a top-notch D. And although I think after a few more weeks, we won't necessarily see our defense as good as it is right now, which is sitting 10th, I still think they're a very solid unit, and they should be able to slow North Carolina down. The Dorian Strong injury has me concerned. Jalen Stroman out for the first half has me concerned. It's just going to have to be next man up mentality. They're going to have to figure it out. Okay. I'm not picking Virginia Tech to win. Just can't do it. I mean, this is literally on paper the worst matchup of the season for Virginia Tech because of how many points North Carolina's offense scores and how many points Virginia Tech's offense scores. It's very different. Okay. So yes, they've had UNC's number since joining the conference, but there's just way too many question marks offensively for the Hokies for me to feel good about it. Hopefully the weather can keep them in the game. I'm going to go for an ugly score. I just feel like a 19-11. Don't ask me how that works itself out, but I'm going to go 19-11. North Carolina wins. The Hokies get over 10 points. And, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I hope I'm wrong.
Sure.
But Yeah, I'm gonna have to believe it like I until I see it, just like I was going into the Boston College game.
Yeah,
So they
fair.
picked them to beat Boston College after that ODU performance, and I don't want to pick them again until I see them figure out something offensively. But
Sure.
we'll see how it plays out. Just everybody, chill out, enjoy the game. Realize there's bigger things going on in the world. If anybody in Florida is listening, stay safe out there. Hopefully all your everything is good for you and you're out of the woods here. And then, as far as the rest of the East Coast goes, there's still very high chance of flooding. So
Yeah.
again, we're just talking about football here. So chill out, try to enjoy it. I hope we can enjoy it. I hope it's a good performance for the Hokies, and we'll see where it goes. But let's jump into the ACC picks then.
Sure.
A lot of good ACC games this week, actually. Big ones. So we'll start with the less big one. Louisville at Boston College. The Cardinals are a 15.5-point favorite on the road in Chestnut Hill. Should be safe from the rain. Who you got?
See, this is the hardest team to pick against Boston College you could have asked at that point spread, because there's only hot or cold with Louisville. You don't get average Louisville. If you get cold Louisville in this game, they're not beating them by more than 10. If you get what I think you can give them, you're going to win by 28-35. I'm going to take the Eagles 15.5.
Definitely taking Louisville there. Boston College has been really bad, and Malik Cunningham is like I don't want to compare him to Lamar Jackson, but he reminds me a lot of Lamar Jackson.
He does. And look, Chestnut Hill's a weird place, man. It's a weird place. It's where football teams go to play wacky, basically.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be nobody there.
No.
There's going to be a lot of chowder going around.
Right. It's like playing in the COVID season again. God, I love their chowder. Oh, my goodness.
Little New England clam chowder up there. Wake State. Seminoles are a 7-point favorite. Florida State snuck into the top 25, Tim. They're number 22 in the country. Wake's 23 after a very close loss to Clemson. An overtime loss.
Correct.
Who you got here?
You said Florida State's favored?
By 7.
Oh, give me Wake plus 7 all day. That might be the lock of the century right there.
I agree.
Yeah. I see that being a very easy one there.
I mean, I get it. Like, I'm interested to see this game. Neither defense is very good. So whatever the over is, I definitely want to take it. Jordan Travis has been really good this year.
Much better.
I think Norvell's got these guys headed in the right direction.
That Mike Norvell guy likes a snug hoodie. Doesn't he? You notice that?
He does. Yeah, I bet he's a big Roback guy.
What size is that? Like, do you get the sleeves size smaller than the torso, or how does that work?
I don't know.
Because he's got the body's sleeves a little loose and the arms are like saran wrap.
Yeah. So when you have tanks for arms like myself, so I've got like tanks for arms and thighs, just like massive thighs, right? So like I can wear like a size 38 pant.
Right.
I've got all that waist space. They ain't getting over the thighs, baby. Thunder thighs. That's who I am. Okay. Mike Norvell's the opposite. He's
the opposite.
He's like one of those dudes. He just kind of freaks you out. He's got those like uber skinny arms. It's like
yeah. It's just weird. His sizing choices are strange. That's all. I'm sure he's a great fellow.
I can't remember if I said, but I'm picking Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman. Been phenomenal this year.
He has
6 touchdowns last week in the loss. I'm going Wake Forest plus 7 on the road at Florida State. Same time as our game, unfortunately. I would like to watch that one. NC State at Clemson. Big game. Top 10 ACC matchup. Actually, somebody showed a blind resume of North Carolina State and Texas Tech this weekend. It might have been Reddit College Football, which is a great college football Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
and their records were the same or almost the same. Maybe it wasn't Texas Tech because NC State beat Texas Tech. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But it was the blind resume test.
Mm-hmm.
It looked very similar, and NC State's in the top 10 and the other team's unranked. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. But
yeah,
NC
that checks
State,
out.
6.5-point dog at Clemson. DJU has been better of late. In my opinion, still not great, though. Wake's defense isn't very good. He padded the stats against Wake. Not to say they threw it on Wake, but he had good numbers against Wake. NC State's defense is much better. I want to see DJU do it against a good defense. And until I see that, I'm not picking Clemson to win when they go against a team that I think is very talented top to bottom. So I'm going to go Wolfpack here, plus 6.5.
Yeah, the old Textile Bowl is going to be a big one this year. This is a tough one for me to pick because we are seeing improvements from Clemson's offense. On the other hand, Clemson's defense is not great right now. You've got an NC State offense that is stumbling out of the blocks early, but had a good game against UConn, showed a little bit more of the playbook. It's tough. I want to take a team like NC State's defense because I do believe defense will prevail here. I just feel like at Clemson, NC State hasn't won there in a while. There's been a lot of pressure to do so. Yeah. Give me Clemson. I can't help it, man.
I'm disappointed to hear you say that.
I know. I know.
What would Papa Hurst say?
He'd be ashamed. He'd be ashamed.
He's going NC State in this game, right? I mean, we know who he's rooting for.
Oh, yeah. Well, so that was actually strange.
Okay.
My dad, having been an NC State fan his entire life, so for 60 years on this earth being an NC State fan, has become somewhat jaded. This may surprise you. He's the ultimate Wolfpack pessimist at all times.
I mean, I get it.
You get it. You get it. I think we can all relate a little bit on that one. But he texted us shortly after the game last week and said, boys, NC State's going to win. So.
Love it. Love it.
Papa Hurst is on board.
Maybe the game of the week, Tim. Virginia Duke.
Ooh, spicy.
That's a joke. You know what I love about this game? Duke is a 3-point favorite. Now, if I had said that to you preseason, Duke is going to be a 3-point favorite against Virginia on October 1st, you would have said, you're nuts.
Yes.
I wouldn't have called to start the year. UVA's offense has been flat out miserable this season.
Yeah.
I mean, Brennan Armstrong, he's got under 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 picks through 4 games. Like, this dude had almost 3,000 yards passing at this point last season. They can't run the football. Their defense is finally kind of turned a corner a little bit. They're playing better. They're not playing great. And then you got Duke, who they lost a close game to Kansas, who Kansas
they're good.
As a high-powered offense. They look like a pretty solid football team.
Yeah. Lance Leipold's a good coach.
Quarterback. Riley Leonard's played really well this year. He's got 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. I mean, Duke's had some nice wins. I'm still going to pick UVA here.
What?
I mean, I just cannot. Mike Elko's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Okay. I'm just not ready to pick Duke in a game like this, just because like a month ago, I never would have picked Duke to beat Virginia as a 3-point favorite.
Right.
And I mean, it's at Duke. Who cares? Like, there's going to be nobody at this game. But, I feel like there's a bit of a slide coming for the Blue Devils. They're coming off their first loss of the season against Kansas. Let's see how they react to that. But it's not because I think UVA is good. I think if we start to see DJU take steps in the right direction and we continue to see horrific play by Brennan Armstrong in this UVA offense, there seems to be a common denominator there, and that guy's name is Tony Elliott. So I'm surprised at how bad this offense has been with an offensive guy like Tony Elliott calling the shots.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if the roles were reversed and we had Brent Pry come in and saw no improvement on the defense. year over year. I mean, we would have been a little concerned.
And the cupboard is not bare.
No,
Cupboard
it's
is not bare. They've got good playmakers over
outside
there.
of that offensive line, which is.
So you're going Duke -3.
Oh yeah. Give me Duke in that one. I think Duke will win by a touchdown. Riley Leonard too. Shout out to him. He's really impressed me when I've seen him play this year. Really, really impressed me.
Georgia Tech at Pitt. Pitt, number 24 in the country. They are a 22-point favorite. Let's take a moment of silence for Swaggy Jeff. Swaggy G. What's the Atlanta area code?
304? No, that's somewhere in Maryland. 404.
Is it 412? 404. Let's take a moment of silence. It didn't work. It didn't work for Swaggy.
No.
Honestly, I personally don't understand why you fire him after the month of September, in the month of September. They had a difficult schedule. They had a difficult schedule last season.
Yeah.
You're coming out of a triple option based offense. It's going to take time. You got a quarterback who's talented, but he can't throw the ball consistently. I mean, it was just kind of a recipe for disaster this year. Like the Georgia Tech start is not a surprise. Like nobody was expecting them to go 4-0. So I don't understand why you fire them if they're off to a bad start. That's kind of what was expected. Why not just fire them at the end of last season? That's my point. So you've wasted an entire season. If you're Georgia Tech, you've wasted an entire season, and essentially most of next, because now you have to have a new guy come in. Try to get some kind of recruiting class in there, new system, whatever. Maybe it's Deion Sanders and he can pluck these 5-star guys. I'm half joking, but I'm half not. I think that's a realistic possibility.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But Pitt's my pick, -22.
Yeah. So interim head coach Bounce gets Tech to at least beat the spread here. They're probably going to lose by 17 points, but I think there is that interim head coach, bounce is a real thing, and I expect we'll see some of that with Georgia Tech.
Yeah. So we'll see if the bounce is a thing, Tim. But that's our show for tonight. Thanks for listening to Chowder and Grits. Forgot to mention in the front end. Go check us out on YouTube, Chowder and Grits. We've got all of our shows on there if that's your preferred method of listening. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you can find us, chowderandgrits.com, Twitter, @chowderandgrits, Facebook, Instagram, Chowder and Grits, you get the point. We appreciate you being here. Be sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. We haven't gotten a review since November, guys. Come on. We've been stuck at 76, preferably 5 stars, if you would.
Yeah, it would feel nice to break that triple digits on reviews. I'd like that.
I just turned around, Tim, and Aaron Judge just hit his 61st.
Oh, no way.
So he was obviously waiting for the Chowder and Grits
the watch party
to end so we could miss it. So I just wasted days watching Yankees baseball to watch him run around third base.
I mean, he's literally a Sasquatch.
He's a massive human being.
I mean, no kidding. If he ran into Sasquatch, that would be a conversation that would be had eye to eye.
Yep, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
And you would not be looking into his eyes. But that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. And go Hokies. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.